We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxingego Unpacked. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Don't be confused. After a dominant performance from Shakur Stevenson, his immediate target is Oscar Valdez. A lot of people trying to confuse it with what he said about Gervonta Tank Davis. I'm going to explain the differences in this video. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Listen, I don't know how you found my video, but somehow, some way, you made it. Help others make it and arrive at the same very content that you found on YouTube with the free and simple gesture. Throw a like on the video. Takes a couple seconds, it's painless, I can assure you, and it goes a long way. Now, Shakur Stevenson is on top of the world. Shakur Stevenson fought Jamel Herring on Saturday in Atlanta, and it was a tour de force performance. Absolutely shined. In the buildup, it looked like there was maybe some potential bad blood. All things were resolved in the ring. They competed against each other. Shakur apologized to Herring's wife, and he just put up a classic performance. This was really, as I've stated, the coming out party for Shakur Stevenson. Now, most people who've watched Shakur, I've personally covered some of his fights, so I've seen him fight on TV, but also fight live in the flesh. And I don't know anybody in boxing that has a voice that, you know, has any credibility that has said that Shakur doesn't have skills. But this was the performance, in my opinion, he needed, because it shuts up all the doubters, and he put his skill set with his pre-fight banter and his reputation that precedes him from the Olympics and before he even turned pro, and he made it, he molded it and put it all together in this very performance. He fought a champion coming off of a very good win versus Carl Frampton, and he befuddled him, confused him, maybe even concussed him, and he was letting him rip. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. It was just a brilliant performance. Now, we unpack. Coming to you live. We unpack. I had to make this. Shout out to the real Tank, not Gervonta Davis, but ironically enough, we'll be talking about that Tank as well. So the singer Tank, maybe I deserve for you to go find some. He said, you a bad man. And I agree. So if you go to Google, right, and type in the man Shakur Stevenson's name, you'll see a ton of top stories, and they're all positive. Shakur Stevenson dominates Herring. 10th round TKO. Silences the doubters. Learns a valuable lesson. What else are they saying? Shakur Stevenson next fight, blah, blah, blah. He would love to fight Lomachenko. Shakur stops Jamel Herring to become champion. Future superstar, question, Yahoo Sports. Shakur Stevenson, he shines in a one-sided win over Herring. Dominates. So you can see all the headlines. Gives a brilliant performance, KOs Jamel Herring. So the sky's the limit, and I'm really proud and happy for him. He put it all together. But it leads me to this video. We unpack. Coming to you live. Let's not confuse and mince our words. I'm a straight shooter, steak and potato. So when I deliver videos to you, I mean it. I mean what I say. And this was just a great win for Shakur Stevenson. But post-fight, he was asked about his future. And a lot of people, I've seen people are like contorting what he said, right? And I'm talking about mostly fans. So for example, he made it very loud and clear that he would like to fight against Oscar Valdez. And he called him out. You see right here, I'll put the link in the description. Shakur Stevenson calls out Oscar Valdez for a super featherweight 130-pound unification fight after stopping Herring. This has been something that has been going on since they were in the previous division. Featherweight, 126. Oscar Valdez and Shakur Stevenson both were at the same divisions at the same time. Featherweight, 126 and 130. Oscar Valdez, when Shakur was ranked and was like creeping up on a title shot, it was Valdez who decided to give away his belt and said he could no longer make the weight. And he had all the fights that he's going to have at 126. So he moved up to 130 before Shakur Stevenson, right? And Shakur Stevenson later fought, at the time, then girlfriend, her brother, Joette Gonzalez. I went to that fight. I was there live. Another dominant performance. Shakur, he's hard to win rounds against. You know what I'm saying? When he locked in and the performances he's given us. And I think that should be the major focus. But what's happening in this world of boxing, and I don't want people to confuse or collude and try to take something that could be so easy and complicated. So we'll talk more about Oscar Valdez in a second. Shakur also talked about fighting Lomachenko, another top-ranked fighter, which we'll get into as well. But this is what I want to focus on for the next few moments. ESPN, it says, me and Tank down the line will be an amazing fight. So this is something Shakur did say post-fight. But I'm going to read it to you one more time in the words of Timbaland. One more again. Me and Tank down the line will be amazing fight. Now, this is what I've noticed, particularly when it comes to black fighters. When it comes to black fighters, you see old media freely and willingly constantly pit them against each other, right? And put that at the precipice or the forefront of the conversation, even when it doesn't make sense. Now, listening to Shakur Stevenson's own words, it says, me and Tank down the line would be an amazing fight. That's what he said, down the line. But when he's called out Oscar Valdez and when he's called out Lomachenko, two top-ranked fighters, he's not saying me and Lomachenko down the line would be a great fight. He's saying things like, I sparred Lomachenko. That would be a great fight for me. I want that work. Oscar Valdez, he's been pursuing him since the featherweight division, and it hasn't happened to no avail. So I think there's fans, and I understand why old media chooses to do this, but they'd rather surround and create the situation where it's Shakur Stevenson and then the names of Gervonta Davis, who's really hot right now, you know what I'm saying, pause, and clout chase that as opposed to what seems more readily available. Now, the problem I have with this, Shakur versus Tank Davis, of course, that's a great fight. A skilled fighter, a boxer, puncher like Tank, explosive. They sparred in the past, yada, yada, yada. Of course. But right now, they're not even currently in the same division. Now, neither is Lomachenko. However, if you listen to what Shakur has said in calling out Lomachenko, he says and sounds like he's ready for that fight now. More importantly, they're both with top rank. You can see right here, Shakur Stevenson would love to face Lomachenko. Vasily Lomachenko, most definitely, I don't duck no action, right? So this is after the Jamel Herring performance. He said most definitely, said Stevenson, when he was asked the possibility of facing Lomachenko next by ESPN, right? But last I checked, he said he was staying at 135. I'm down for a fight. I don't duck, no action. So this is not the first time that Shakur has mentioned that. But again, I'm seeing a lot of old media and they're trying to make this the talking point. Conveniently, this is what happens. When it's two black fighters, it's like the whole world is up and ready for it. But this is not the case when you pit a black fighter versus a non-black fighter in other situations. Like, for example, Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence, another great fight, but we know the inherent problems with those fights, making those fights. You got a top-ranked fighter in Terrence Crawford. You got Errol Spence, who's a PBC fighter. You got different sides of the streets, and you have Errol Spence, who has a ton of people that he can continue to fight and has been fighting, right? And he says, I'm going to clean up my side of the street. And then you have on the other side, Terrence Crawford with top rank. And in my opinion, I don't think Terrence Crawford has been all the way realistic in saying that he deserves 60-40 and, you know, it has to be 50-50, because you have to compute star power, tickets sold, and, you know, all the things that are used to create the A side and the A side value, your valuation as an A sider, right? Same thing with Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta Davis. For one, they're not currently in the same division, but it's the same situation as Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. You got two talented fighters who are on opposing sides of the business of boxing, which again becomes harder. Like, for example, Wilder Fury was the anomaly because Wilder Fury took place the first time without any involvement in Top Rank and ESPN. This was merely constructed from Frank Warren, Queensberry Promotions, and Tyson Fury's side, and Premier Boxing Champions. So then they later did a 2-fight deal because the first fight ended in a draw, and Tyson Fury ran to Top Rank and did a deal with them, and then they end up doing a deal. So that's completely different circumstance. Henceforth, why you've seen Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury in a joint venture, PBC and Top Rank. Now, I'm not a spokesperson for Top Rank and I'm not a spokesperson for PBC. This is common knowledge. We unpack. Now, fast forward to the future. If you look at another fight that involves a fighter that is being sent over from one entity to a next, you look at Crawford and Sean Porter. For one, that particular fight was mandated, right? I did videos about this. So Terrence Crawford is the WBO champion. Sean Porter was ranked highly with the WBO, and they ordered that fight, right? Whoever pushed for it, let's say Sean Porter's people pushed to get ranked and make sure, blah, blah, blah. They got ranked. They ordered the fight. Completely different situations and scenarios in Shakur and Gervonta Davis. But because this is a battle that old media is willing to see because it's with two black fighters, they're going to continually throw this and make this the talking point, as opposed to, in my opinion, which is why I'm doing this video, the ready-made fight that already should have happened that is much, much easier to make. So if we're talking about I think a lot of people, to me, this is one of the major things that is wrong with boxing. We have these situational things where, I mean, I could tell you 1,000 fights that stylistically are great fights to make and fans would love to watch. I truly can. But we know boxing is a business. People want to play these games and say boxing is a business, but then when it actually comes to the business of boxing, they want to act completely absent-minded and forget everything that they previously said for other situations, right? Now, the same goes for a lot of fights. I mean, I could do this all day. Demetrius Andrade and Charlo. There are ready-made fights for Demetrius Andrade since he's been with DAZN and other people that at the time or currently are with DAZN, and they are not making those fights. That's my problem, and I think that continues to be a problem with boxing. People want to push for the fights that are already filled with complexities and have all these different nuanced things and moving parts that make him harder. Like, okay, for this fight, Shakur is not even a lightweight. Tank fought his last fight at 140. Tank's fighting Rolly at 135, I'm pretty sure, right? So they're not even in the same division. But then in addition, you got a guy who's been marketed very, very well. Tank David, this is not a knock on Shakur. This is actual facts. The announced attendance for Shakur's fight with Jamel Herring in Atlanta, and I believe Top Rank used Tank Davis as almost the guinea pig because Tank was selling out and doing great numbers in an urban hip hop type of market like Atlanta, right? And Tank tripled the numbers. He did like 14, 15, 16,000 when he went and competed with Atlanta. So that creates another complexity in making this fight. See, and people are going to get mad at me for speaking the real and keeping it all the way funky with you and telling you the truth, but that's the truth. Tank is doing, so that, in addition to the fact that Shakur is not even in the same weight class and they don't have the same promoter, I believe that's going to be a harder fight to make based on the fact of where Tank is. Tank, his promoter keeps telling you, Leonard Ellerby, Mayweather Promotions, we got the star. From 130 to 140, this kid Gervonta is a star. So he's going to be the A side. In addition, you see on the screen, Shakur Stevenson says it would be an amazing fight down the line. So old media, these are distraction tactics that old media uses to get away from the ready-made fights. They want to switch the conversation and pit two black fighters against each other. I don't have a problem with black fighters fighting each other, but when the conversation, it says Shakur Stevenson calls out Oscar Valdez. Valdez already looks bad from the Robinson-Conceição fight and in failing a test and them still allowing Oscar Valdez to continue to fight. So that already looks suspect. So to try to move the conversation from what could be a ready-made, easy in-house fight, which is always going to be easier to make, to a more complex fight with a lot more moving parts is foolish in the world of boxing. I truly believe that. And I think it takes away from conversations that really should be had in the world of boxing. Now, again, this is what Shakur said. It's only one fight at the end of the day. It is the biggest fight in the division. He's a 130 pounder. So he's saying this is the biggest fight in the division. Oscar can't keep ducking. So he didn't say Tank is ducking him. They're not even in the same weight class for him to say that. He says Oscar Valdez can't keep ducking. It's time for him to fight. It's me versus Oscar Valdez. The 130 pound division needs to unify. So let's get it. I love this energy. It's a continued energy from Shakur Stevenson. And in my opinion, instead of the clout chasing and trying to overly promote fights that are much harder and more difficult to make, why not actually promote and put the pressure on promoters to make proper in-house fights like Oscar Valdez and Shakur? They should have been fought already, to be honest, but it didn't happen. The timing is still great for them to happen. So these are old media tactics that you are starting to see implored in the world of boxing to clout chase and shift the conversation from what it should be. In addition, I know Lomachenko isn't in the same weight class as Shakur Stevenson. However, one less obstacle based on the fact that, one, Lomachenko said he was considering moving back down to 130. People like Bob Arum, when Lomachenko lost to a big lightweight and lost that lightweight to Teofimo, Bob Arum said that Lomachenko is really a featherweight. So he's really fighting out of his division. So if he is going to move back down, that's an option. Shakur Stevenson, who just looked great and took Jamel Herring's belt. Since Bob Arum was the one that said that Shakur Stevenson, is a great fighter, and Bob Arum is the one that said Lomachenko is the guy who really shouldn't be fighting at lightweight. You could pull all this stuff up. So that's an easier fight to make. Plus, they have the same promoter. This is an in-house fight. But I see the play and I see what people are doing behind the scenes. A lot of these promoters, they want to hassle and clout chase the inherently harder fight to make, knowing it won't be made, and in the interim make all these other fights that fans aren't necessarily asking for. But then you have all the things. It's like the Eddie Murphy joke where the kid wants McDonald's. And he's like, can we go to McDonald's? And she was like, nah, we got McDonald's at home. And then she pulled out some bread that they have and bell pepper and hamburger meat. You got the ingredients to make a burger at home, the cheese, you got bread, so you can substitute that for the bun, etc. So you can make you a burger at home. That's always gonna be easier than having to pick what restaurant and drive out somewhere, making it yourself at home. But this is what's happening in boxing continually, and I felt I had to make this video. And I'm not blaming Shakur. He's just, he's the fighter. Of course, he wants to fight everybody. This is more so the fans and old media who are trying to propagate and push fights that they know likely aren't going to happen or are going to have more obstacles that need be cleared for those fights to happen. That's the issue. Shakur is a great talent. Gervonta Davis is a great talent. Another reason why it makes no sense, after Shakur, he just passed with flying colors. He just beat Jamel Herring. Guess what? Tank Davis hasn't beat his next assignment. That's another reason. See, in the boxing game, I've been in here so long. I've been in the game so long, doing numbers so long. That's why you can't pull the wool over my eyes. It makes less sense to talk about Lomachenko. I don't even know if the Richard Comey fight is official, because I don't really hear no one talking about it. So I don't even know if it's official, or if it's just what we think is going to happen. I don't know if anybody can send me a flyer of Lomachenko Comey, I would love to see it. And it has to have a date of this video or before, because I haven't seen that. I've heard that's probably going to be his next opponent. So what I'm getting at is Lomachenko doesn't actually have an official fight. Shakur just completed his assignment. Oscar Valdez beat Robinson Conceição, even though I thought he lost. So these guys are, again, on the same platform. All the guys, okay, so Top Rank has Shakur Stevenson, Oscar Valdez, and Lomachenko. They're all under contract with Top Rank. They're, in addition to being under contract with the same person, all three of them are Olympians. Why not push for the easier fight for you to make that's in-house? It just doesn't, you're not going to make it. If you think you can change my mind and make some sense of this in the comment section, please do it. But to me, it doesn't make sense. And that's why it looks like a clout chase on behalf of old media to throw the dogs off the scent. And Shakur is gunning down Oscar Valdez, who's in the Canelo gym. And instead of putting pressure on that and propping that fight up, which is a great fight and a ready-made fight. Nobody got to move out of divisions. Nobody got to work with another promoter, or like Sean Porter being sent over from Premier Boxing Champ, or somebody mandating this. This is a unification. It's an in-house fight. These fights should be the ones that are pushed, but we see what it is. And it's like, it's almost like the Black Murderers Row 2021. 2021. They want the black fighters to just off themselves, like, off each other. And then other fighters get to fight. Like Oscar Valdez, he probably won't rematch Robinson Conceição. So he could just, fight guys whoever. And I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. So, because Shakur Stevenson, let's not get it twisted. Him fighting Tank, that's a dangerous fight. Tank don't fight like Jamel Herring. He got more power than Jamel Herring. Vice versa, Tank, he would have to beware of Shakur's skill set. So that's just a hell of a fight. But again, Black Murderers 2021, 2022 is absolutely real. This is what they want to push. This is what old media continues to want to push, instead of pushing the more feasible, ready-made option. Oh yeah, let's just make the conversation. And to me, that's corny. It's corny because pretty much it's not going to happen, or it's not going to happen unless we go through months of deliberation and obstacles and stuff. Just like Shakur fighting Jamel Herring. Easy fight to make. Jamel Herring, he's with Kinahan or whatever, and Top Rank. He with MTK, and Shakur's with Jay Prince in Top Rank. Easy fight to make it happen. So I don't like the conversation moving, because again, it becomes a clout chase. It becomes a clout chase because you ultimately know it's not bracking. You know it's not happening. It's not really cracking. You know what I mean? Again, like I said, if you take nothing else away, Tank already has a fight. He's fighting December. We got to see he's fighting a knockout guy in general. And I know some people think that Rolly don't have a chance and boom, boom, boom. But at the end of the day, he's a knockout artist and he's a guy with power. So we have to at the very least, see how he looks. But again, people don't want to do that because they want to alleviate Oscar Valdez from the conversation. And the other reason why we got to go hard and stay on this subject is because Shakur Stevenson is a talent who's been pushing for the Oscar Valdez fight. So to me, that should be the number one narrative because it's not even really narrative. It just makes all the sense in the world. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Subscribe if you like the content. We Unpacked, coming to you live in a moment.